Everybody, welcome to This Week on Steam. We're covering weeks 4 of November, weeks 1 of December. But first, let's take a look at your free games for November 22nd weekend. Fuck. So first up, we have Prison Architect, free for the next 3 days. Very high reviews on Steam. Basically, you're a warden who has come into possession of a prison and has to figure out how to run it and manage it and pay for all the things they need paid for. Can't be that hard because the Australian PM already does that. Next up, we have Rainbow Six Siege. You can play for the next 3 days, where people apparently just really hate someone named Tachanka. Don't really know much about it, but that's just what I read. So if you like yelling at your teammates for playing a certain character, or watching doorways, or not watching doorways, or planting bombs, or not planting bombs, whatever it is that people argue about in Rainbow Six Siege, you could play that all weekend. Good luck. Third, we have Warhammer Vermintide 2. Now, this is another great game to grab 3 friends and yell at each other all night for, because even though you're playing cooperative, there's friendly fire on the harder difficulty. So if you really just want that Mario Party-like friend-ending experience, maybe give this one a try. Lastly, for all you competitive fighting game fans out there, you can play Street Fighter V free all weekend with such notable characters as Ryu and probably Guile. As you can tell, I've never really played this game. I'm just assuming those people are in it. There you go. Next up, let's take a look at some of the games you probably missed that are going to be coming out in the next 2 weeks. First up, we have To Be Headed or Not To Be, which supposedly comes out November 22nd, which will be tomorrow. It's a game where you play as 2 skeletons and you throw your heads around and solve cooperative puzzles with a friend. I will see if I can get my hands on this one. Next up, we have Kingdoms of Lorn, The Fall of Ebris, which tries to prove to everyone out there that the longer your name in the title, the more serious of a game you'll be. It just looks like the darkest game I've ever seen. There's like almost literally no lights. Next up, we have Santa Tracker, which is a godsend for those people out there who have problems with calendars and very small number math. So you can now tell how many sleeps until Christmas. Next, on November 22nd, we have my biggest disappointment, which is Ice Cream Fantasy, which has literally nothing to do with ice cream. It's a porn game. Next, on November 22nd, we have The Political Process, which I imagine is just about as fun as balancing your checkbook, making Excel sheets, or being an accountant. Also on November 22nd, we have Lost Ember, which explores the situation in which the animals retake the Earth from the humans, and you can play as all the different animals trying to figure out what happened. Also on November 22nd, we have A Pirate's Pleasure, which, for the first time, I actually thought this was a porn game and was disappointed to find out it's text adventure. Next, we have another November 22nd game called Overstep. And thank God, because I had been saying for years that I was waiting for someone to make a game combining Jet Grind Radio, Gundam Wing, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and any shooter ever. And now it's free to play, so check that out. Continuing on November 22nd, because apparently everything comes out on November 22nd, we have Beat.School DJ Simulator, which finally allows you to annoy virtual people with your DJing instead of live ones. So that's great. That'll be great for a lot of people. For all those people who really just love geometry, we have RetroVamp, where you get to play as a square and jump on rectangles. That's really about it. After that, we have this Chinese game that I found called OrdinaryFamily, where you sit in a room and talk to your dad. That's like the whole game. That's all I found. He just talks to his dad forever. Oh boy. Glad I didn't miss that one. Have you ever wanted to play a visual novel focused on heterosexual students with different personalities that are secretly in love with a flourishing male host? Called Winter Snow. Next. If you just can't possibly wait until Diablo 4 comes out or Diablo Immortals on the phone, you could play Naxia on November 22nd, which is an ARPG hack and slash that seems to be basically as generic as they come. But this still may be better than the phone version. Finally, moving on to November 23rd, thank God, we have GLOWCOMA Chapter 1, which is a sci-fi kind of horror survival game. It's an FPS. Actually, it looks pretty interesting. The graphics look decent, at least at best. Kind of reminds me of GTFO. Went into alpha pretty recently. If you haven't seen my video on that, it'll be linked below. On November 25th, I just want you to see that they're their logo card there just says Mega Balls 8 times. I don't need to know anything else. I'm buying it. Next, on November 25th, we have the Sphere of the Abyss, which kind of reminds me of MapleStory 2 or Spiral Knights, if you'd ever played either one of those. It's basically a 3D action-adventure exploration game with some RPG elements. Pretty standard setup, but it does look like it could be interesting for people into a more cartoony aesthetic. Next up, in strange Chinese import games, we have My Lucky Koi on November 25th, and I'm just going to read this description part here. It's a friendship story between a hard worker and a koi leprechaun. And if that doesn't do it for you, down below, bullet pointed with the type of game it is, I kid you not, Minesweeper. Easy, funny, daily, sweet system, adventure, short story, inspirational. It's Minesweeper. Minesweeper's one of the... It says Minesweeper. I didn't know that one game could be so many things. Did that other game, playing as a square jumping on rectangles, not do it for you? Well, on November 25th, you could play as Arrow, where you play as a triangle avoiding rectangles. It's a great month for geometry in gaming. Do you ever play Solitaire but think it's just too easy with the cards in nice even rows? Well, on November 25th, you could play Detective Solitaire Inspector Magic, and you could just be annoyed as shit with having the cards all over the goddamn place with a game that makes literally no sense. Solitaire was fine. You didn't need to ruin it. Did not need to ruin it. Next, on November 26th, we have a strange but interesting physics puzzler called Vital, where you explore the different areas and use physics to solve various puzzles in the area with some very creepy looking enemies who I imagine are going to try and stop you. It actually doesn't look bad, so keep an eye on this one. Next, on November 25th, we have Escape the Ayuwoki, which is the game that I will never in my life be playing because it looks fucking terrifying. It's a pretty standard escape the mansion / house / room and don't get found by the monster. Simple formula, still not playing it. Martha's dead. doesn't have a release date, but I just really liked the title. Next up, everyone's favorite section, rapid fire porn game time. Porn game. Fighting game, porn game. Porn game. Definitely porn game. Remember that actually like a puzzle game in the last video? They got DLC now. It's all about Christmas. Porn game. I swear to God, I thought this said anal intruders. Not a porn game. Monster Girl porn game, everyone's favorite. Do you remember Scattergories? Do you want to play a porn game version of Scattergories? Bingo. I'm just as surprised as you are. This is actually not a porn. You actually are just a guy that swings on ropes. Porn game. Porn game. Oh, I love this one. On November 27th, you can play Widget Satchel. I covered this in the Switch version of this video, but you basically play as a ferret. You play as a ferret, run around a space station, throwing sprockets and widgets at stuff, and just making a mess. Definitely buy that. Don't need to play that. Pretty much living it right now. So next up on November 27th, are you a geologist or otherwise rock enthusiast? Well, check it out. You can play Rock Simulator and you could stare at this rock for a really long time, if that's what you're into. I swear to God, I may actually be dyslexic because I read this as Untied. It's not Untied, it's United. It's a minimalistic puzzle game made by one guy. It's supposed to be relaxing and pleasant. Next, on November 27th, for all you Gundam fans, we have SD Gundam G Generation Cross Rays, which is the most stellar title I've ever heard, but it is the tactical RPG series, not the action or fighter series that we've seen in the past. So, check that out. I'm sure it'll only be $95. How about we break into his garage? What do you think about that idea, Dad? Did Pokemon Sword and Shield leave you a little miffed? Are you looking for something to fill that void? Well, on November 29th, you could play Nexamon, which is definitely not Digimon or Pokemon at all, and it has nothing to do with either. They're completely different games. This one, you capture monsters and you do battle and try to become the champion of the world. Yeah, I can see now why you would think that those were pretty much the same games now. That does make sense. Next up in games you had no idea we're getting a sequel, we have Blaster Master 02, which I guarantee none of you even knew Blaster Master was a game originally, but they're making a second one. So for those of you who are as old as I am, you could play this game and relive your childhood. Next up, and God, I wish they would bring back Steam Greenlight, we have Sonic the Hot Dog, the Movie, the Game 2.1, Electric Boogaloo 2.2, version 4, the Squeakquel, VHS Edition, Director's Cut Special Edition, the Musical, and Knackles. Next up, we have a really cool game on November 29th called Dangerous Blaster. You basically are in a tiny arena, it's kind of like a bullet hell, but every shot that you miss on the enemy then becomes a projectile after bouncing off the walls that can kill you. So you have to be extraordinarily accurate. Holy shit, that's actually really cool. Are you a sadistic psychopath that just fantasizes about running over as many bicyclists as possible? Guess what? They made a game for you called Run Over You, and you basically run over people on bicycles with your car. Congratulations, it's a great time to be alive. You ever thought to yourself, wow, I love Sudoku, but it's just too easy being on one plane of existence? Well, now you can play Bunny Sudoku and play co-op for some fucking reason and just never be able to get anything Sudoku-like ever done because this just looks terrible. You remember those things in doctor's offices that like 2-year-olds play with where they just move all the colored things on the string? Plasmoid. I just love that someone's making a game called The King of Peasants. It's an adventure game. This next one I'm personally pretty excited for. It's called Tools Up, and on December 3rd, you can play co-op as you try to renovate and restore these different houses and apartments and things. You gotta work together kind of like Overcooked, and it's obviously gonna be just awful. It's gonna be incredibly difficult and, you know, scaling difficulty as you move further into the game. But these kinds of party co-op games are always a great time, so I'm definitely looking forward to this. This next game caught my attention because of their kind of odd style that I don't think I've seen before. It's called Hero Land. It comes out December 3rd. It basically looks like if Paper Mario had a slightly more 3D look to it, but it's an RPG where you move through these different dungeons and things. I know very little about it, but just the style of it alone kind of is attracting me towards this game. So I'm gonna see if I can do a review on it. Next, on December 4th, we have a game called Door in the Woods. Do you like Dwarf Fortress? You'd probably like this. That's all I got for you. Next up on December 4th, we have Punch, which is 2 fat guys doing battle in the mountains. What could go wrong? And very lastly, on December 5th, we have a game called Mosaic, which just looks stylistically like the most impressive, neat, and interesting game I've seen in this video. It has a really dark kind of brooding style, but the graphics and they even describe it itself as atmospheric and cinematic, and I have to just agree on all points here. It just looks interesting with the style that it's using. Definitely be watching this one. Anyway, we gotta wrap up. I'm gonna leave us here with the newly announced Half-Life Alyx, which is the VR game that they just announced today. If you haven't seen the trailer behind me, you should definitely check that out. It's gonna be released in March of 2020. Anyway, as always, I hope that this was helpful to you. I hope that you found some games that maybe you didn't know existed, didn't know were coming out, and you can go and you can wishlist those. It's the best thing you can do for the developers because it tells them that people are interested in their games. It tells them that maybe they should put more money into more marketing, stuff like that. It's definitely wishlist it, follow it, do all those things, get active on the forums. It helps the developers. And that's it. So again, we'll be doing these every 2 weeks, so you know, just look forward to that. And hopefully, again, like I said, hopefully these are useful to you. I also do one every other week on the Switch. So if you have a Switch, you want to know what's coming out on that platform instead, you can check out that video. I'll probably link it in the cards up above. As always, until next time, let me know what you think. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below. You know, I enjoy talking to you guys about games. Hit me up on Twitter, Discord, Instagram, whatever. Join the Discord and get involved. I'm also on Patreon if you want to do that. And until next time, burn bright, everybody.